This is your daily briefing. You're most welcome to it. Going to talk to you about Simon Jordan today, TalkSport fella, former Crystal Palace fella. I'll be open with you. I like Jordan. I think he speaks with fluidity. I think he's an intelligent guy. But as I've said before to you, when he talks about Daniel Levy, for some reason, I get the feeling it's like he's taken his brain out and put it in a jam jar by the side of the bed. He did a piece to camera the other day for TalkSport, discussing where we are. When he talks about Levy, and I don't know if it's a sort of blue chip corporate chum sort of thing that comes into play, but I very much get this sort of sniffy feeling that I'm being sneered at and spoken down to. Oh, you couldn't possibly understand the difficulties at play here. It's that kind of tone. And look, put me down as the most unreasonable person on earth, but I don't think Daniel Levy's job is that much of a big task. You keep selling the same seat to pretty much the same people forever, and all you have to do is get in the best footballers you can afford and a coach that can operate with a degree of harmony and purpose. I've made it sound very simple, but it is a simple game. Anybody tells you anything else is whistling, you know. So let's go through it, and then I can jump in and because we need to put stuff like this straight. That's the purpose of this. So Tottenham Hotspur have challenges, very clear challenges in the mind of their fans, and ultimately with owners Daniel Levy and Joe Lewis. I'm not in the camp there should be a race to the bottom if you're struggling to find the right manager, given Conte's disgraceful exit. So there's plenty there. So challenges. Yet self-inflicted. 99% of the stuff that Spurs face on a day-to-day basis, I would say, is of their own creation. Public relations, hello Donna, I'm looking at you, is absolutely abysmal. I mean, when this goes wrong, sweetheart, get your CV over to North Korea. They'll snap you up in a heartbeat. A race to the bottom. I'll be brief on here because there's loads more to go through. But this, to me, is ignoring the fact that I think for a business which is public-facing, I think you need to be able to at least try to control the narrative. Spurs never do that. They're always late to the party. We used to go through this abysmal, absolute untruth of Levy time. Do you remember that? After Van der Vaart was offered to him on a plate at 5 to midnight one year. That was a long time ago. There is no such thing as Levy time. This is self-indulgence and squandering of time. That's what we get with this guy. So the race to the bottom, no, the impatience that you're sensing, Simon, here is from people who've been hanging around for over 2 decades with this clown, and he's not up to the task. Conte's disgraceful exit. Yeah, sure. Dan Kilpatrick went down this line as well. If he's not prepared to commit. Yeah, well, why? Every time I see somebody accused of doing something awful, and let's face it, if you're in a press conference for the club, the business that you represent, you go wrong live on TV, I don't think that's ideal at all. But my first question is what provoked that? It's like when you see these clips of somebody on an aeroplane behaving disgracefully. What provoked it? It's not an excuse, but it's more by way of explanation to provide context and understanding. Oh, that man, he's being really racist. He's saying horrible things. Yeah, but what caused that? Is there a bit on the tape that we didn't see? This is what I'm talking about with Conte. Conte wasn't having an absolute ball and then one day lost his mind. Conte was clearly under a lot of pressure, pretty much from the word go. And we'll come on. In fact, we'll do it now. The problem with guys like Conte and Mourinho and Nuno, although I wouldn't put Nuno quite in the same class as the other two gentlemen, is that elite managers, and this has been a charge thrown at these guys, well, you get 15 million quid, you ought to be able to get a tune. It doesn't work like that. That's your old school Harry Redknapp, your Sean Dyche, these guys who put an arm around you, shout at you, throw a pot noodle at you. These guys, they pretty much have a template. They have a playbook, by which they operate. And they need people with high levels of competence because to adopt a plan, keep to its structure, and to deliver the end game, you need competence. That's why you look at Mourinho's Roma, got to 2 European Cup finals, didn't play the world's best football, but didn't have the world's most exciting footballers in the side either. Get the basics right, defend, don't concede too much possession, and take your chances when they come. It may not be exciting, but that's the same tactic that Conte used at Juventus. It's the same tactic that Mourinho used at Chelsea. And Nuno, that's what he did, because that Wolves side that were doing okay, they weren't particularly exciting to watch either. So if you're going to hire one of these guys, you need to make sure that you're ready to accommodate them. And Spurs will go through it. I'm going to do an end of the peer show. I'll go through all the players at a later date with you because I haven't got the energy at the moment. But some of the rubbish and dysfunctional characters that we've got there, the reason that we're being flogged to death, and bear in mind Pochettino did this as well, is because if they weren't the world's most desirous players, they weren't wonderful, at least they had to be fit, and that's why these guys have been hauled over the coals on more than 2 or 3 occasions now. So he goes on, whether fans like this or not, you have to have a degree of admiration that Daniel Levy won't race into making a decision. I just reiterate there, you've caused this, you've precipitated this, you brought in the wrong people, they didn't work, and now you're going to stroll around eventually hoping to rectify the situation and make the right decision. Big clubs like Spurs shouldn't be managerless. And what they shouldn't be is a club that has 3 coaches in a season. That's just utterly unacceptable. Given the situations with Mourinho, Conte and Nuno, it becomes even more important to get the decision right, or he'll find himself in the way of even more vitriol. And he talks there as if the vitriol isn't justified. This guy has been chucking around extraordinarily large amounts of money badly. That's the reality. He's not spent wisely, he's spent foolishly. I think the compensation bill for coaches and staff at the moment is well up to the close, knocking on the door of 100 million quid. And he can't get serial winners to have any joy at Spurs. And I'm going to throw it in again because it doesn't make me happy. A mental prompt. He sacked Jose Mourinho 6 days before a cup final. And I know there are people watching this going, yeah, but he played terrible football. You didn't listen to the previous 7 minutes and 42 seconds of this tape. What are you doing here? You're on the wrong channel. You're on the wrong channel. You're not listening. You don't worry yourself about how the football looks. Yeah, sure, if you want to be entertained, and I've said this to you before, go to the opera, go to Covent Garden, go to Formula One, go to the races. You'll have an experience, you'll be entertained. Football matches, I've been to more football matches than lots of people and not as many as others. And most football matches you go to, you get the odd moment, the odd bit of gallows humour, you have something, the occasion, you get the goosebumps. But quite frequently, there'll be a moment where it's nicked and you go home and the difference between your shoulders being slumped and you actually walking on air. So Jordan goes on, I don't think it's a catastrophe, taking your time. It's a disappointing season and obviously fans are not happy with Daniel, investment in the club, with the team's performance, with the style of play. How is it a disappointing season? Because the CEO made bad decisions. He made bad hires on top of previous bad hires. Fans are not happy with Daniel Levy. I think there are very easy ways to avoid causing your customers to be unhappy with you. Don't use words like soccer, for example. And don't try to create, and this is one of the recurring themes of ENIC in this, be careful with my language, but this post-apocalyptic soul harvesting device of a stadium. The thing that caught my eye, right, when they were showing us the stadium, were all these airbrushed pictures, architectural imaginings of how it was going to look. And there weren't any football fans. Men in beige trousers, women, children. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not a misogynist monster, but I didn't see football people there. And what they've done, and we've seen the images in recent days with people trying to get into N17, Haringey, whatever you want to call it, Beyonce, they've kind of wanted this sort of just weird punter, this every punter. Oh, I like go-karting. I like pop music. I like skywalking. I like watching football. Football, number one, everything else second, dim and distant. As I've said, if you want to do it, knock yourself out, but don't bother me with it because I'm a football man. Unhappy with Daniel. Investment in the club. I don't think people are unhappy with investment. I think they're unhappy. I think most people aren't stupid. That's my position. I think most people at this stage, I think we had a few stupid people about 7, 8, 9 years ago. I think most people these days realise that we're in 8th position, the Deloitte darling money turnover league in Europe, in the world. We're a massive, massive club, but we're just being constantly mismanaged on a daily basis. I think the investment has been there. I think the investment in the infrastructure, yeah, fantastic, well done. You're good at arranging loans. How tremendously brave of you. But we've also spent a ton of money on players, and I'm going to, you know, again, he comes with it. Over £200 million worth of players, which aren't worth that now, plus Matt Doherty, aren't worth that now. They're all worth between, I think the last time I looked, about 8 million and 22 million, the players that we've got on loan. And it's an obscenity is what it is, because they're not on loan for any good purpose. They're on loan because the coaches say, I can't work with him. That boy's no good. So what do? We get rid of him, hide him, stick him under the bed. Style of play has got nothing to do with Levy. That's to do with people like Conte, Mourinho and Nuno. Yeah, how blissfully naive of you, Simon. You get in a coach, you know how he plays. Surely you've seen his work. You've got CVs there that people would give their eye teeth for. And it's just absolute nonsense. This isn't brought sight unseen. You know, you've got people who've been in the game for a long time. They've been on TV lots. You've got scouting tools. The idea that you don't know what you're going to get with Mourinho, you don't know what you're going to get with Conte. It's just implausible. It's not even funny. And he mumbles on at the end there, but the appointments themselves were Daniel's responsibility. You can't do it, Simon. You can't do it. You can't give us 80 words, 120 words, and then the last 10 say, yeah, well, you know, it was a little bit of his responsibility. He is at the front of the ship. He should be the Viking charging up the beach, the guy with the biggest cutlass. And what we're getting here is a bean counter who's taking us round in circles. And he concludes with this, I think it's not about how quickly you make the appointment, but how right you get it. Well, I tell you where we are. We spoke to Nagelsmann 3 times. I guarantee you that. I think we absolutely got played. We met with Slot from Feyenoord. I think we got played by him. But you make your own fortune. If he got off the plane, if he was on the plane and he's saying to himself, I'm going to spin these guys, go back and get myself a nice deal where I am and feather my nest, use it to do that, that's fine. But that's not written in stone. You could actually blow his mind. We've got the infrastructure. We've got the money. You know, we're not Middlesbrough. We could have changed the guy's mind, but we're incapable of doing that. And I can only hesitate to imagine how awful the discussions with Nagelsmann and Slot were. I would imagine they were absolutely shambolically terrifying. We acted, I would imagine, like the big don't you know who I am. It's certainly how I was told that Levy acted with the NFL. And if I know some of you don't like it, how do you know? Because people talk to me. And their business with the NFL, I was told that he went to New York, he met with the NFL, and he took a dump on the boardroom table. No concept of who he was talking to. I think he thinks he's a superstar, and he's not. He's a very ordinary little man. And that's the reality. That's one of the fundamental flaws of him. And I was talking to a taxi driver yesterday because he was talking to me about Harry Kane. And I think those two, I stand by the fact, probably announced before I finish this tape, that Kane's leaving. But I think Kane will be here forever. And those two both come out with this line occasionally about, oh, people underestimate me. I think they're damaged. I absolutely think they're damaged. We've all been underestimated. If I have success at something, I tell you what I don't say. You underestimated me, didn't you? That's the words of a fool, the absolute fool. So we've got a situation where we've kind of scratched the names of two coaches. We're supposed to be after this fat guy in Scotland. Listen, if you love this guy so much, and I'm hearing an awful lot of white noise, is the kindest way I can put it on social media, move to Scotland. Move to Scotland. You know, I couldn't care. History has taught us that people do well in Scotland and then it doesn't translate elsewhere. Sure, you give me an example, great, you've got your example, but you can't weave that into being like a series, you know, of reasons as why a Scottish football manager should be taken seriously. It's absolute nonsense. And then everybody else on the list, you're doing the old Danny Rose thing, Googling them to see who they are. So Simon Jordan defending the indefensible, or rather trying to pass off stupidity as the work of a considered and learned CEO, which Daniel Levy is not. He's not. He's a man who burns money, goes through money like nobody's business. And as the phrase goes, I think we've seen enough. That's it for now. Good luck and keep it Tottenham.